Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Deshawn Jackson. I will be your MC. So what we're going to start off with now is a pre-show. We have a musical performance from, let me get the gentleman's name. A. Michael E. Known for stellar performances with a rich sound, this artist entertainer from Beaumont, Texas, has been traveling to bring great music to everyone from overseas to next door. I bring to the stage A. Michael E.
We'll be using this, and we might not be using this. I'll be watching in the back. Let me know. Paying for cues. I'm a soul singer. What I do is I leave it on the stage. This first song is called Honey. I use this song a lot of times to explain my music, how I want you to feel. That way, just in case during the performances and the other songs, you kind of just forget what you're supposed to be. And it's just understanding. So this first one is called Honey. I like crowd engagement too. So whenever you guys are ready, I like for you to snap. Honey, honey. I like good music, like a good la da 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 da. You ready? Let's get smooth like honey. Like honey, like honey. I know will set you free. They say use the mic. I've got a song that's sung every day by you and me. Oh, I'll put our moans and groans into a unique melody. And it'll be so smooth, like when those trees reach out for the sun. Yeah, it's smooth. It's smooth like honey. I think it's smooth like when blood drips down after a man's been shot. I think it's smooth like when a man cannot think and he has nothing to look at but a mirror. Have you ever looked in the mirror, asked yourself a question if there was answers without words being spoken? And you feel it like I do. But see, my music, it's not for everybody. Because my music, I've got a rhythm that can make my brother stand tall. I got the pulse for the one that'll walk the hall. I've got a symphony of music that will never fall. This music is for everyone, y'all. But I pray and I hope that it'll be smooth today. You guys with me? Y'all with me? For all of the students, I really thought there'd be more students here. This song right quick, let's just talk about it. So when you're waking up and you want to make a change, and some days you feel like you're just living in a dream over and over and over again. You wake up, you want to make a change, you want to do something different, you want to graduate, you want to succeed, and sometimes it feels like you're not getting anywhere. A lot of the times, you just need to wake up from that feeling and realize that you still have control in your hands. I ask myself,
Yeah.
So everybody can see it.
I ask myself,
Found out, not the whole, we found out.
when I wake up in the morning, when I get up out my bed, I might as well be dreaming, cause I never get nowhere. When will I wake up, I ask myself, when will I wake up, I ask
Has no
myself.
beginning, has no ending, it just goes on. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Waking up's getting harder, cause days are getting longer. I'm tired of the 9 to 5, I can't find no peace of mind. Bills due and I can't help them, trying to make it through the weather. No friends, no family, to call on it's a dream. When will I wake up, I ask myself. When I wake up, I ask myself. I like to be immersive. May I sit with you for a second? I ask myself, when will I wake up? I can count on blades of grass. I've seen somebody ever struggle. A lot of the times they was trying to get up out of trouble. They were stressed by the law and trying to find a way out. But in the midst of trying to come up, they fell short and fell down. Everybody used to working for the weekend, but now we're working on the weekend just to pay our bills. And you would think overtime could fulfill the things that it takes for us to take care of our kids, but it don't. Have you feeling like an ain't and a won't? Cause everything that you said you would do, you don't. I've seen people smoking weed every single day, looking like with one hit all their problems could go away, but it don't. Waking up, realizing in their car all the dreams and they dreaming of the come up. But see, I seen them snap right back. I seen them snap right back. I seen them snap right back. And all I had to say was, when will I wake up? I ask myself. When will I wake up? I ask myself. I ask myself, when will I wake up? So that's that one.
Like these people, they're watching.
Yeah, it's a story. It's a story. I try to tell a story. Now, I am a father of 2. I have my daughter first. She's 3 years old. And I have my son, who is literally my image, my son. And as a father, I felt like I needed to write a song for him for things that I didn't know. And then it just kind of got out of hand. I started watching Cab Calloway, started looking at some of the old Sammy Davis Jr. moves, and we came up with this. Turn it up a little bit for me, too. This is the one that's low. A little bit more. A little bit on. Get it up more. Black boy, didn't I tell you not to run around with those toys? You'll get shot like red Indians, blue cowboys. Took the riches of your youth for you to enjoy. It's a shame what you in for, black boy. Oh, poor man, poor man, poor man. Rule number 1, don't ever hide your face. They already know your race and they think we in a game. Number 2, oh, never run without your homie. They like to catch us by our lonely. That's how we don't make it home. 3, don't let them know how you feel. Realize the penalties when you go out and keep it too trill. Number 4, realize the girls that you call hoes are the one that love you so, even if they don't know. Number 5, you better try to stay alive. Even with this list, you might not make it out tonight. It's for the devil, my bruh. Know it now, evil's real and it lives amongst. Oh Lord, 7, it's for the blessings of heaven. When I'm gone, I still want everyone wanna feel your presence.
Number 8.
Oh, know the reason you get hate. You've been running with chains on your foot, but they should be on your race. Black boy, didn't I tell you not to run around with those swords? You'll get shot like red Indians, blue cowboys. They took the riches of your youth for you to enjoy. It's a shame what you went for, black boy.
Rule number 9.
It's for the lion, trees, and Uncle Tom's. No, now they do their best to help you fall.
Number 10.
Oh, every strength is a weakness. Rules of war stay, kill your enemy from within.
11
is a reminder to hold your number ones together. Hold your family down through all the weather.
Number 12.
It helps you out with the one right above. Healing hurts, especially when it comes from ones you love. And I could keep giving you some more numbers just to write, but 13 to infinity is don't give up the fight. And no matter what you learn, know there's some who hunt for fun. They're the worst ones, they're lurking. They try to give you a hurt. Black boy. Oh, 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 my precious black boy. Son, listen to me right now as your father. Know that everything that you want to be, you can be. Know that the obstacles that have been placed before you were placed before me, and I lifted you up over those mountains to watch you build bridges, not tear down. My precious black boy, this rules, this book is only for a while. You have to write a new one. I'm gonna ask y'all to turn it up a little bit more for me. This last one is a very, 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 very easier one. It's not as racially led or anything like that. You can laugh, it's okay, it's all right. You can laugh, it's all right. It's all right, man. It's okay, you can laugh, enjoy your life. But I need you guys to sing with me. Can you guys do that? Yeah. All right, perfect. So we're gonna do a test run right quick. I'm gonna sing, you sing. Be all right. 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 I see you. I see you. Okay. Y'all, I'm not going to use this mic for this song, okay? I'm talking to the production team in the back. Okay, well, I'm going to use this stand then. I just like to have my hands free. I was taught how to talk with my hands and just being so constricted. I feel like I had a straitjacket on. Yes, sir. So, my name is Michael to the E. I thank you so much for allowing me to be here today. And you heard my brother. He sung the first 3 songs. I'm his twin. Nice to meet you. We have the same name. My mother was bored. This song goes out to everyone, no matter the race, no matter the creed, no matter the gender. Just know that you're supposed to see people for who they are. Simply a person, nothing less. I see you, my people. I feel your struggle, yeah. I feel your heartbeats now. And that's why I'm with you. So don't give up now. Yeah, just keep on fighting now. Keep your mind on, keep it on the right track. When I was young, my mama said, don't worry, just keep on working, it'll be alright. Yeah, don't worry, just keep on working, it'll be alright. Be alright. Be alright. It'll be alright. Hey, see you the workers. I see you sounds so lovely. You're trying to count losses just to reach all your goals. But don't give up now for the lack of harvest. Yeah, no, in time you'll reap what you sow. When I was young, my papa said, don't worry, just keep on working, it'll be alright. Yeah, don't worry, just keep on working, it'll be alright. You say it. Oh my God. Be alright, be alright, it'll be alright. It'll be alright. Hey, to my man. But don't worry, just keep on working, it'll be alright. Yeah, don't worry, just keep on working, it'll be alright. Be alright. Be alright. Be alright. So have faith, it's alright. Thank you guys so much. My name is A. Michael E. I'm here, child, like you was at an open mic. You can find me on Instagram and all of this. No, seriously though, all of my music is for free. Thank you guys so much. All of my music is for free because it's a message and a song in every one of my songs that I've made, and I never once put self first, always the people that are gonna listen. So if you really do enjoy it, all of my music is handmade, originals, everything you listen to, nobody has rights to except for me, and I would just appreciate it if you listen to it when you're feeling down. Thank you. I got etiquette.
All right. Thank you, Michael E. Come on, Southside. Let's show him some more Southside love. Okay. Next to the stage, I am going to bring to you the newly appointed Dean of Behavior and Social Sciences, my friend, my girl, Dr. Sharia Taylor Love.
Thank you, Deshaun. Good evening. Wow. What an evening we have in store for you here tonight at Tarrant County College South Campus. As Deshaun said, I am Dr. Sharia Taylor Love, Dean of Behavioral and Social Sciences here on the South Campus. It is with tremendous pleasure that on behalf of our acting chancellor, her cabinet, the Board of Trustees of Tarrant County College, and our own South Campus President, Dr. Dan Lufkin, I welcome you to our inaugural TOROTALKS Forward Towards Justice Summit. Before proceeding, I'd like to acknowledge some dignitaries we have in attendance with us tonight. I'd first like to ask my president, Dr. Dan Lufkin, to stand. Dr. Lufkin is president of the South Campus. Dr. Michael DuPont, vice president of Student Affairs. Dr. Jan Clayton, vice president of Student Affairs. Dr. Gabriella Borkeman, director of Campus Relations. Mr. Kendall Lott, district director, District 6 for council member Dr. Jarrett Williams. Pastor Vinchard Dobbins and Christy Dobbins, associate pastor from the Potter's House of Dallas. If there are any other college, city, or county officials here, would you please stand so we can acknowledge your presence? Thank you. This evening's conversation with Mr. Sean King is sure to be engaging, critical, reflective, and motivating. Mr. King's presence and soon-to-be delivered insight will serve as a catalyst for just action and healing efforts throughout our Tarrant County community, our college district, and in and around South Campus. Moreover, your attendance this evening, whether in person or virtually, serves as an act of love. Love of fellowship, love of reflection, love of action, and love of justice. Thank you for your attendance, and as importantly, thank you to those in our lives who wish they could be here but could not. With that, please allow us to advance forward towards justice. Thank you.
Next, we have for you Tom Poet. Originally from Omaha, Nebraska, he is a rapper, singer, songwriter, poet, and crystal healer of many other things. He started his musical journey 15 years ago and has no plans on stopping. He'll be performing two of his original pieces for you today, Escape and Mama's Muscle. Tom Poet.
How y'all doing? How y'all doing? These are my personal experiences. And through mine, I've caught a couple bad apples. When I say us, I don't mean all of us. When I say police, I don't mean all of them. When I say girls, that's what I mean, not women. Understood? What's happening? Who do I run to? Y'all heard that? When I need love. Who do I run to when I'm thirsty for a heart, but she been running low on love's juice? She didn't love me, and she just acting like she loved you. Solid in my being, but she been looking for a thug who wanna be just as he is, which is just as he will be. Incarceration or tombstones are options that he'll seek. Money don't make you manly, nor the option to kill me. Thrill seeks, kills me to see my brothers on kill sprees. So who do I run to when my OGs act like they ain't got the time to coach me? So look up to who? How can you judge if you don't know me and never took the time to educate me about the police? Pops wasn't there. Uncle turned into a dope fiend, so all my role models just show me what I don't need instead of what I could do or should do to proceed and fight the oppression that over time has come to own me. So who do I run to when the people that I need help from got guns too? Police don't love me and you just acting like they love you. Saying we thugs, look at here, you got a son who wanna be just like us. Just like thugs. Just like Crips, you guessed it. Just like Bloods, and he gonna go and raid the school, spray them just like bugs, but y'all gonna water down his dirty actions just like mud. So who do I run to when I need help and I don't know just who to run to? See, I done been shot, so I went out and got a gun too, so I wanna be just like Malcolm, just like X, just like Pac and Nas regarding my flesh, protect the temple that I own, then educate the rest, cause they can kill a wasp, but that just irritates the nest. So who do I run to when I need help and I don't know just where to run to? Police don't love me, neither do girls or these thugs who are killing each other instead of teaming up on the ones who want to be just like us. They programmed our minds to turn us on each other when we are the divine few, buying watches that just sparkle that we can't tell the time through when the truth is inside you. So that's who I will run to for my escape. Through thunder and rain and summers of pain, you never stopped loving the same. We hoped and we hoped, but we still woke up broke till we sold all our most precious things. I wonder if pain swept away with the rain would just fall on my head once again. But as long as we're strong and we keep holding on, we could use all our pain for our gain. Mama just knew all that God really do, so she prayed and she stayed in good faith. Just a few more reminders that we were behind her, and she went and made us a way. And through thunder and rain and summers of pain, you never stopped loving the same. We hoped and we hoped till one day we weren't broke and we bought back our most precious things with Mama's muscle.
Okay. Sean King. So I'm getting ready to introduce to you tonight the moderators for this event. Michael Russ is a visionary leader. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. My other boss just told me I need to stay on script. So I'm going to bring to you Michael Russ and Dr. Jeffrey Herr so they can tell you about TOROTALKS.
Well, good evening, everyone. How's everybody doing tonight? Well, you all look great. You all beautiful people look amazing. Thank you for joining us for our Toro Talk Summit. My name is Michael Russ, and I am one of the co-leads for this platform.
Also a co-lead, I'm Dr. Jeffrey Herr, Professor of Education and Philosophy here at South Campus.
Absolutely. And so what we want to do is just share with you about our Toro Talks platform. What is Toro Talks? Tell you a little about the origin story. How did all of this get started? And so tell us a little bit, Dr. Jeffrey Herr, about how this platform started.
Brother Russ, I can tell you a little bit about it.
Okay, tell me a little bit about it.
It goes back to the spring of 2019. We had 3 SGA Intercultural Network students, black young men, who were in the parking lot, approached by a police captain from our campus. Now, he approached them in goodwill. He approached them to have a conversation, but the perception was different from the 3 black students and the police officer. Different perceptions from different cultures. And so, this was perhaps the finest type of teaching and learning that occurred here, because this was actually critical thought in an informal setting outside of the 4 walls of the classroom. And we sometimes forget that the informal settings of our experiences are what are truly educative in our lives. And this became an educative situation for these young men and the police officer too. So, the campus police captain approached the 3 black students, and there were stereotypical socio-historical perspectives involved, and they evolved. Their conversation was cordial, but the students' stress became elevated because the police captain kept his hand on his gun belt. One of the students took the chance to ponder why, and that's bravery. It was, according to the police officer, it was heavy. It was uncomfortable. And he rested his hands on the belt to alleviate some of the strain of the weight of the belt that was on his hips. And that was true. This exchange led to a critical conversation in a parking lot between a police officer and 3 young black students from our community, this community, South Campus, South Fort Worth, this community. Perceptions were addressed, viewpoints were offered and exchanged, accepted, civil discourse the greatest of all discourse, was interacted between these people. Unwarranted, unneeded violence and turmoil were avoided in this situation. So much so that in that moment, these four people decided to plan for a unity summit on South Campus whereby concerned, underrepresented students and the community could come together courageously to share their concerns with the local police. Likewise, the police could present their perspectives, and that's just what happens because I was there. And the police, district attorneys from Fort Worth, Arlington, TCC police were there, campus leaders, campus faculty. We all came together to talk with the community, like where you're sitting right now is where they were sitting exactly. And we talked and we quizzed each other and we answered questions courageously, civilly, respectfully, and healing did occur that night. And that was the seeds of Toro Talks. Toro Talks then took on more of a life of its own, and Brother Russ is going to tell us how.
Absolutely. And so because of that initiation by students, right, that advocacy, that work that they did, they really launched this platform that you see here now, the Toro Talks platform. One of our former VPs here at the South Campus, once she was hired, she came along and she heard about that summit and the work that took place, and she stated that, you know what, you all can't let that work just end there. What is actually being done as a result of that summit? And we said, well, you know, students, they transition, you're here one semester, and they exit and they're going the next semester. And she stated, hey, we have to do something to continue this movement. And so as a result of that, in 2020, there was a committee put together, the Toro Talks Committee, to continue great work, to have courageous conversations that lead to healing, restoration, renewal, but also conversations that lead to solutions as well. And so we're here tonight, a part of the Toro Talks platform. We're having the Toro Talks Summit, which is our first ever Toro Talks Summit that we're having. Over the course of 2 years now, we've done at least 7 programs, some in person. Right when we actually started, we had our very first program in 2020 of February, and then guess what happened? The pandemic hit, right? Just when we were getting started, a lot of great response to the platform. And so what we did was we pivoted, just like everybody did in around the world, really, right? And so we started virtual programming, and it's continued on, and we're back now on campus, and we could continue programming last semester. And so we're here, we're excited about this event, we're excited about this summit, the first ever of its kind. We're looking to tonight, we're looking forward to tomorrow, and we're looking forward to the future. And so I know I have a lot of people in here. I'm gonna challenge you to get on your cell phones and tell them, hey, we're at the Toro Talks Summit at TCC South Campus, and tell them, hey, you gotta get here. There's still time for you to get here, right? Or you can come tomorrow as well. So I know I got a lot of young people. I know you're on your phones right now. So, right, go ahead and text that on social media, IG, Facebook, and let people know that we're here. But I want to share this really quick. While you see Dr. Herr and myself up here as the co-leads, we would absolutely be remiss. I think the next slide tells you about our Toro Talks Committee. We absolutely cannot get the work done that we do without incredible people, talented, gifted individuals that are on our committee. And if I may say, they make us look good.
They make us look better than good. And if you're in the house, if you're on the committee and you're already standing, then stand on a chair. If you're sitting down, then stand up if you're on the Toro Talks Committee. Let's give these people a round of applause for putting this together.
So we've got people here on the inside, we've got people working on the outside as well, and they work tirelessly and effortlessly, right, helping us to execute the vision, helping us to do what we do with the Toro Talks platform. And, you know, again, you see us with the mics in our hands, but we absolutely know that we could not get this done without them working late at night, you know, and I don't like to get into calling names or things of that nature. However, you know, I do want to just pretty much acknowledge all of them. Dr. Keisha Shelton, who is out in the lobby right there. Dr. Iris Harvey. Dr. Iris Harvey helped create our website for us, our landing page. Mr. Sean Jackson, amazing job. Brother Jonathan Morrison, community leader and activist. Jennifer Jackson is out there, right? Dr. Michael Jackson is in the back. I know I'm probably missing somebody, but
We're not
again,
going to forget Natalie Johnson.
Dr.
right
Natalie
here.
Johnson
We're
is
talking
right
about-
here.
Right.
Right.
Jennifer McSpadden.
All of these individuals. who
Jennifer
make it
Jackson.
happen.
Where's JJ?
LaWanda Hurst is out there as well. Some of our committee members maybe couldn't make it tonight, but I think most of them are here. But if you will, just on our behalf, just put your hands together and give our committee a round of applause for the awesome work that they do. All right, so I'm gonna stop talking because I'm gonna be back up in a minute, and I'm gonna turn it back over to Mr. Sean Jackson.
Let's give our leads another round of applause. And he is absolutely correct. We work late at night. We worked this morning, all the way up until probably 5 minutes before. My wig has shifted, but I'm okay. Okay. So I'm going to read tonight the bios of our two gentlemen who will be talking with you tonight. Michael Russ. So before I read his bio, you know, Michael and I, you know, he says I fuss at him all the time, but we fuss at each other. But you know, the good thing about it is all out of love. We challenge each other to do better, to be better, and to bring better. Michael Russ is a visionary leader, servant, educator, encourager, social and racial justice activist. He is a first-generation college student and has the distinct honor of being a Bill and Melinda Gates Scholarship recipient. Currently, he is the coordinator of the Intercultural Student Engagement and Academic Success Center at TCC South Campus. Michael earned his bachelor's degree in business administration from the University of Alabama in Huntsville, and his master's degree in educational leadership from the University of Texas at Arlington. In May of this year, Michael Russ will be confirmed as the Dr. Michael Russ, receiving a doctorate degree in educational leadership and policy studies from UTA. D. Sean King is a civil rights leader, author, entrepreneur, husband, and father of 5 brilliant kids. 5 brilliant kids, let me bless you. He is the executive director of the Grassroots Law Project, which fights for racial justice and deep policy change, and founder of Real Justice, which helps elect new district attorneys across the country. His most recent book, Make Change, was a New York Times bestseller. Sean is also the editor-in-chief of the North Star and recently started a clothing line called A Real One, which aims to have a Black-owned supply chain from the sea and the ground all the way to shipping. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring to you Sean King and Michael Russ.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, good to see you.
Well, good evening, everybody. Once again, we are so excited to have you here with us tonight. You know, we have Mr. Sean King here with us, and while we are absolutely going to explore justice and talk about those concepts, we're also just going to have a conversation, right, and to get to know him, because we see so much in the media, but who's better else to tell us about who he is than the man himself? Would you agree with that? And so we're going to just talk tonight. Before we go deep in, just say some greetings, some initial words to the crowd, if you will.
Well, glad to be here. And I have a problem with something called secondhand embarrassment. And it's where somebody performs and it's terrible and I get like really embarrassed. both of the brothers who performed tonight were so amazing. Like, blown, you know, you don't know how that's gonna go. Like, like, that can go two different ways. I was blown away by both of you, so yeah, just so gifted, so talented, and it's so hard to get up here and do that, but I'm glad to be here. I actually flew in from out of the country and flew into Houston and then here into Dallas and Fort Worth, so thank you for having me. Thank you for spending this evening with me. I'll be back here all day tomorrow as well, but it's beautiful for me to be here tonight because most of the time when I'm in Dallas or Fort Worth, it's because some type of grave injustice has happened. And obviously there are still injustices all around Texas, but I'm glad that we're not just gathered here to memorialize somebody. We're here to celebrate one another. We're here for camaraderie and more. So thank you for having me, inviting me, and I look forward to this conversation and look forward to seeing you all tomorrow as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Well, if you're, like me, I follow you on social media down through the years, so I'm well acquainted with your work from afar, obviously. And many of the people in the room as well may know who you are. But just before we get started, I want to just add a little bit to your bio. In 2020, your Facebook page, Sean King's Facebook page, was the second most engaged in the entire world behind Joe Biden, who we all know was running for the president of the United States at that time. As of April 2022, you have over 2.5 million followers on Facebook, 3.7 million followers on Instagram, and over 1 million followers on Twitter.
And I got like 800 on TikTok. If you left my 800,
I left TikTok
you left
out.
my 800
Okay.
TikTok followers off of there.
800 TikTok followers, right?
Yeah.
So well over 7 million followers. And I share that so that we all understand the dynamic individual that we have in the room. This is absolutely a rare opportunity. We've had a chance to talk with Sean in the back, and just for him to be so laid back and just chill, and really, even in the back, just thorough with his responses to questions. I mean, like, not shortchanging us at all, really to the point that I had to say to you, hey, I'm gonna do a rapid fire, right? And so I think that just speaks to who he is as a person. And so again, we're just elated to have you tonight. Again, we're gonna talk about justice. We're gonna, explore some of those concepts tonight, but you are doing a keynote address tomorrow, and so you'll be giving a formal address. And so tonight, what we wanna do is, again, really get some insight into you, firsthand experience into you. And so I want the audience to learn more about you. If you will, tell us about your upbringing, your childhood, and just talk to us a little bit about that.
That's a big question. I'm from the South, and a lot of people, I've lived in New York for the past almost 7 years, and so a lot of people, if you just now came to know me, think I'm from New York, but I'm country. I'm born and raised in Kentucky. I moved to Georgia in 1997 to go to Morehouse College and lived there for, thank the two of you for clapping for Morehouse. I see some others too. But I say that to say that my formative years were really spent in the South. And so the South shaped me in a lot of ways, good, bad, and ugly. And I don't know if you would know me had I been born and raised in California, or even if I was born and raised in New York. And so, I'm 42, and when I see myself, like even when you said like how many followers I have on social media, like I never think about that. Like I'm grateful for the followers because those are people. And that's my opportunity to impact individual people one by one, to rally us around causes. But I see myself, like when I wake up in the morning, I don't see an Instagram celebrity. I see myself as I wake up in the morning, I'm a father first. I literally take my kids to school every morning. I have kids in elementary school, middle school, high school, and college. I'm 42, but I was 20 when I became a father. My wife was 19. I've been married for almost 25 years. And so I have, kids from that whole range. And so much of what I do with my kids in mind. I do with young people in mind. But growing up in the South really shaped how I saw justice, how I saw myself. If you had a chance to read my last book, Make Change, I tell this story in depth. But I'll only skim through it now, but when I was 15, and that was in 1995, I was brutally assaulted by a group of racist white students at my high school. And had there been social media at the time, it would have been one of those stories that trended, because I was injured so badly, I missed all of my sophomore year, all of my junior year of high school. I had 3 spinal surgeries, fractures in my face, and none of these students who did this to me were ever held accountable. But this is 1995, 1996, before Facebook, before Twitter, before Instagram. I was just a kid. I was a product of an interracial relationship that my mother had in 1979. And so at that time, people now consider themselves multiracial or biracial, but where I grew up, you were either white or black. And there was no middle ground there. And having experienced this injustice, it really burned into me 2 or 3 things that I take with me today. One, it was physically and emotionally, it destroyed who I was. I was diagnosed with PTSD. I had to go through physical therapy after the surgeries. And when I came out of it, I was super sensitive to people who were in pain. Physical pain, emotional pain, and I was super sensitive to people who experienced injustice. And in a lot of ways, that has become that sensitivity has become both my superpower and my Achilles heel, because I take the pain and injustice that other people experience, I take it very personally, and I make it my own. And I'm not at all embarrassed to say that I have therapy every week. I probably waited 20 years too late to do that. But what I've come to understand is so much of even what I do today has so much to do with that 15-year-old boy who was assaulted. And so if I'm trying to hold a white supremacist accountable today or hold somebody accountable for some type of misconduct, so much of who all we are is caught up in who we were as kids. Going to Morehouse, though, really was like a hospital and an incubator for me, where growing up in kind of a small racist town in Kentucky broke me down. Morehouse really helped build me back up and helped me understand how I could be a leader. So I became student government president at Morehouse, whereas this high school that I went to, I couldn't be president of my classroom. I had the white power structure was so strong in this place that there was no access to power for us. Had I not had the experience I had at Morehouse, I don't know that I ever would have even understood that I could be a leader. And so it shaped me in immeasurable ways, yeah.
Absolutely. You mentioned it that, you are a product of a interracial relationship. Your mother is white, and you talked about really when you were born or when you were raised, in Kentucky, I believe it was, you were just either black or white. As you have done a lot of the work that you've done in recent years, oftentimes people say, he's not black, he's white, and that, why is he out in front of a lot of movement for people of color, or in particular, black people? When you hear those things, one, how do you generally try to respond to that? When you know that, I believe you identify as black, how do you process that, and what do you think that vowel is coming from? Just talk about that.
No, I'm comfortable talking about it. First, I was almost 35 years old before people started talking about my race in the way that they do. Like, this notion that I have ever pretended or faked or anything like that is crazy to me. And nobody ever said that about me until I started fighting against police brutality. And what's crazy is it may be hard for people on the outside to see this, but when I started fighting nationally against police brutality, people started throwing 10 different lies at me before they finally found some that were juicy enough and viral enough that they did damage. People started lying about where I lived, how many kids I had, what my career was, how much money I made. None of that stuff mattered to people. But when people started, right at the time where people started saying that I was pretending to be black, there was an actual white woman who was doing that, and it was so juicy, the idea that I was doing that it just caught on and went viral. And anybody who knows me, like who has known me before this movement, who has known me from middle school, high school, college, understands my background. Now since we're in college, let me get wonky about it. The truth is, race is actually a really complex construct. The truth is, if we were being real about my race, like, I am fully aware of what I look like. I'm also fully aware of the privilege that it gives me, the privilege and protection that it gives me in society. I'm also aware that because I look like this, white people are way more apt to trust me quickly because I'm familiar to them. Now, the flip side of that, and Colin Kaepernick has a children's book out. He also has a Netflix special out. If you talk with mixed race people who were raised by white families, like Colin or like myself, we also grew up in super close proximity to whiteness and all the weirdness that comes with it. And so we understand it in a way that is uniquely different for us. It's why you will also see sometimes light-skinned or fair-skinned people, if you look at activists throughout history, be it Huey Newton or Elaine Brown, who was the head of the Black Panther Party, or others, some of what you've seen is folk trying to compensate in a way to say, like, no, listen, I know I look the way I look, but let me show you how much I care. And so part of what I've tried to do is whatever access and privilege I get, I'm trying to use that. I'm trying to use that in a redemptive way to actually make a difference. And so, like, let me even compare it to something different. I campaigned here in Texas for Bernie Sanders. And I had a lot of people ask me, how come there are no national black politicians that are like Bernie? And I've had to explain to them, listen, you can't be a black politician and be cranky. You won't rise up through the ranks. You can't be a black politician and really even be a revolutionary and hardly make it out of city council. You really can't be a black professor or a black college executive. If you push that boundary, you will struggle to rise up through the ranks. And so when people say, well, like, I wish we had someone black like Bernie, it's, well, what we've had to teach Bernie is like, listen, please understand that you also get to do what you do, Bernie, because you have a level of protection because of your whiteness. There's something that a white man in politics can do that almost no one else can do. And so I try my best to use whatever access the way I look gives me, to use it in a way that matters. I don't respond to most of it. If I responded to most drama, that would be all I do. And sometimes I have to weigh in, but on most days I just don't have the time. And so I've learned you have very little say in where you were born, when you were born. You have no say in when you were born, where you were born. You have very little say even in how you look. And so I've had to let go even my own insecurities about how I turned out. Like I didn't have much say in it. It would have been easier for me ultimately if I fit in simply into one category. I just don't. And so I have to use it, and at the end of the day, just not sweat it and use it the best I can.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, you just hit on a number of different things there that has my mind turning when you talk about really the challenge of being a person of color and being revolutionary, right, in these various spaces. And so I want you, if you can, dig a little deeper there and talk about that dynamic, that balance of being your authentic self, right? We've got a lot of college students here tonight, and we could bring it even to their level of being your authentic self, being courageous and being revolutionary, but navigating professional spaces where, as you said, as you try to do that, it could prevent you from going to the top because you could be perceived the wrong way. So just dig a little deeper there.
Let me, can I teach for a minute, if you don't mind? So this is an oversimplification to that. It has to be, because I could go for hours and hours and hours and hours. But at some point in time, you have to make a decision. And the good news is you can change your mind about this decision. You have to decide whether or not you're going to be an insider or an outsider. Now, it has taken me, I have been an activist and organizer my entire adult life, from 1996 until today, over 25 years. For probably 20 of those 25 years, I definitely thought that outsiders were better people than insiders. I thought outsiders were more righteous. Most of my heroes, be it Malcolm X or others, were outsiders. They operated outside of the system, outside of the government, outside of the corporation, outside of most institutions of power. What I've come to understand, having spent the past 10 years visiting, I'm an outsider, but I've spent the past 10 years visiting and spending time with insiders. I told students earlier, I've traveled now to 49 states. I have spoken at most major corporations, colleges, universities, and jails and prisons, and everything in between. What I've learned is insiders and outsiders are necessary for change. One is not better than the other. They just play by a very different set of rules. Wow. Now, the challenge is, can we get insiders and outsiders to collaborate and work together? It's hard, because outsiders are deeply distrustful of insiders and the decisions that they have to make. Now, many of you, particularly those of you who are staff members of this institution or other institutions, you are insiders. Many of you think of yourselves as having like an outsider's brain or the heart of an outsider, but you operate inside the system. What took me a long time to respect is the sacrifices that insiders have to make. When you are an insider, you don't get to say everything that's on your mind. I could push it a step further. When you're an insider, you rarely get to say what you're actually thinking. Now, I tell this story, it's one of the most painful stories of my life as a leader, a huge mistake. In 2014, Eric Garner had been killed, Michael Brown had been killed, Tamir Rice had been killed, John Crawford had been killed. Barack Obama was still the president, and he and others, including a friend of mine who was in the White House, rushed and formed this task force on policing. And my friend who worked in the White House called me and said, and he called me and being like dumb and naive, like, I thought I was about to either get like an award from the White House or I thought they were, and because when he started the conversation, he was like, Sean, at that time I was a journalist, I was working for the New York Daily News. He said, so much of what we in the White House know about police brutality, we learned from you. I was like, wow, they're about to honor me with something. And I didn't say that out loud, but in my heart, I was like, what? You know, this is a different kind of phone call. And what I didn't know is he was doing like a key leadership strategy where before you hammer somebody, you tell them something really good about themselves. And he was telling me like, man, so much of what we know, we learned from you. He said, we pass your articles all around the White House to the highest level. I'm like, wow, the president is learning from me about police violence. He said, but I need to tell you something. He said, tomorrow we're going to announce this task force on policing. And I just wanted you to know that you're not going to be on it. And he said, I just didn't want you to be surprised. And he said, I'm just going to, and this is what a good friend would do. He said, I just want you to understand why you can't be on the task force. He said, you've said some harsh things about President Obama. You've said some harsh things about the Department of Justice. And you've said some harsh things in general. And this committee, this task force, is a group of really non-controversial people. And we're afraid that if we appoint you, everybody will then just talk about the controversial things you said about President Obama or something else. So, but just know we still value you, we value your input, but you can't be on it. Well, they announced the task force the next day. And I looked at who they appointed, and I was like, who are these people? And what are they going to do? And I looked at it, and my blood started boiling. And I'm not using this as an excuse, but I had strep throat. I was sick at the time. And don't tweet when you're sick, okay? So I got on Twitter and I started saying, like, they basically made a task force of people that aren't going to tell the truth about the problem. I said, this task force is not going to do anything. My friend calls me back from the White House. He said, you do know that's why we didn't put you on this task force. And the blood just like, I just felt like so small. And it took me almost 2 years to realize that I was wanting, listen, to speak like Malcolm, where I said whatever I wanted to say, whatever was on my mind, but I still wanted the access of Martin. Like I still wanted to be invited to the table.
Wow.
While still calling white people devils.
Ouch.
Right? You know like using the Malcolm and Martin analogy.
Exactly.
Martin understood that if I'm going to get invited to the White House, I can't say what Malcolm says. Mm-hmm. I can't. Because then I won't get invited to the table. Mm-hmm. And it took me 2 years to realize that I was wanting to have it both ways.
Yeah.
And it's taken me probably 5 more years to understand how difficult it is to get a seat at the table,
Yeah.
to keep a seat at the table, and how important it is for me as somebody who rarely gets invited to the table to still have meaningful relationships with people who do. So my advice is this. Understand that one is not better than the other, and both are very important. But the path of an insider is really one of restraint and calculation. The struggle is, and we talked about this privately, when most insiders get to the table, they then often don't even say the hard thing that they told themselves they would say when they finally got to the table.
Yeah.
We can't be so enamored with the table that we're just glad to be at it.
Yeah.
We can't be so glad that we got the invite that the invite is just what we're targeting now. Now we just want access to power, but don't really do anything with it. So how do you change that? Well, I want to challenge those of you who are insiders to have meaningful relationships with outsiders. I'm talking about friendships. Like you invite people to the cookout. Like where you are close personal friends and vice versa. Outsiders, you need deep, meaningful relationships with insiders. If it's college administration, if it's people in the local government.
Yeah.
And it's through those relationships that I've been able to do my best work. Now, I have accepted that it is very likely that I will always be an outsider. And what that's done for me is it's allowed me to say, here are the rules I can play by. Now let me push these rules to their maximum limit. And while I get to say what I want to say, it also means that there are doors that are closed to me.
Right.
And places that I don't get to go. And so I have traded freedom of speech. I've made the trade where now I don't have access to certain places. And I have to ask myself, is that trade worth it? Yeah. And John Lewis is probably the greatest example of an outsider who was a civil rights protester who said, you know what, I'm trading that in and I'm now going to become a congressperson. Now, we always thought of him as a civil rights leader to the day he died, and I don't mean this as a critique. He really stopped being a civil rights leader. He never stopped caring about civil rights. He stopped being a civil rights leader as we knew it a generation ago and became a legislator. Now, he might have had one foot in one world and one foot in the other, but he was an outsider who became an insider.
Yeah.
And so it can happen. You can change your mind, but the challenge is those two people have a deep distrust for each other, and we have to find ways to bridge that gap. And that's where change happens. And so our organization, Real Justice, we've elected 25 district attorneys across the country in some of America's biggest cities. Now, I'm not enamored with access to power, but I could call any of those district attorneys up and advocate for a family that may be in their district or a case that's in their district, and not only will that phone call get answered, but they'll act on it.
Right.
Because I've built the relationship. And so, you know, there's the possibility of change there for sure.
Absolutely. Wow. You talked about Malcolm activism and Martin access. Man, I thought that was just beautifully well said there. I mean, my head is turning because I've got so many questions in my mind, but I'm looking at the clock as well because I've got to honor my request here tonight. And so trying to figure out which direction I want to go. And so talking about that, I want to transition just a little because of a question that was asked to you earlier, and I think it's a good question to ask to this audience. You know, you do a lot of advocacy for people of color. And so the question was asked to you, you know, a little while ago about, do you also advocate for Asians and, you know, people of other races? Talk about that. Is just your focus, just black people and Latinos? Talk about that a little bit.
I talk about this in my book as well. You know, I'm 42. I think for 37 years of my life, I fought almost exclusively for black people. And somebody asked me something about a quote that I had posted. There's a quote from Dr. King that I know you've probably heard where Dr. King says, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." And so I spoke at this time, I was speaking all over the country, and a couple people at different colleges asked me, "Sean, like, when you say injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, like, do you mean injustice anywhere against black people? Or do you mean injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere? Like, what do you mean by anywhere?" And I realized I had been quoting that quote from Dr. King for 20 years. That for me, I practically lived it out by thinking injustice against black people anywhere was a threat to justice for black people everywhere. But I think the truer personification of that quote, the meaning of it is, no, injustice anywhere against anybody is a threat for justice for all of us. And over the past 5 years, living in New York has helped me, where I live in one of the most diverse cities in the world, where it is normal in New York for people of different ethnicities and backgrounds and religions to fight for one another. And so I have been to marches and demonstrations and planning sessions and meetings where there were people from all backgrounds just strategizing on how to help advocate for black people in New York. But I've been in planning sessions with dozens of black folk figuring out how can we help Asian Americans and others in our city who may be experiencing real oppression. What I've grown to understand is oppressed people have a whole lot in common. And our struggles, while they may be uniquely different, there's some real similarities there. And if oppressed people joined together and fought together for common goals, there's so much that could get done. But we often allow some really important issues to divide us. And so when I look at both, we're in Ramadan right now, and if you study the last year of Malcolm's life, when Malcolm made his Hajj to Mecca, it blew his mind growing up in America because he saw people from all backgrounds. Literally, he would kneel to pray, and he said this idea that he would kneel to pray next to white people or Asians who were Muslim there, it was a new experience for him. And so Malcolm all of a sudden developed an international worldview. And the FBI hated it because Malcolm all of a sudden saw himself not just as an African American, but as a citizen of the whole world. And he began planning and strategizing with other countries around the world. If you study the Black Panther Party or study Fred Hampton, study even Dr. King and other leaders from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, they began seeing themselves as citizens of the whole world. And that always seemed to be one of the things that threatened the federal government the most. Like there's, just in Dallas and Fort Worth, if people of different ethnic groups could find deeper ways to collaborate, no telling what you could get done. Across the state of Texas, across the country. But often we're so burdened with the problems that we face that it can be hard to imagine even fighting for somebody else because the struggles you face are so severe. And so one of the things that I told a student is what I'll tell you all. I stopped having judgment for other oppressed people who don't fight for my cause. And I ask other people, please stop asking black folk to fight for your cause, particularly in our worst moments of pain, because we may be so overwhelmed. Like I remember in 2020, I saw people asking black folk to also speak out on A and B and C and D. Say, can you hold off on that? Because we're so overwhelmed with what we're facing that at least in this moment, we might not have the emotional capacity to also care about your cause. But that has to go both ways. And then when we are in periods of health where we can fight for somebody else. So I've stood with Native Americans and Indigenous Americans. I've fought for Asian Americans and the people from different faith backgrounds and ethnicities and others. I fight against, issues of discrimination against immigrants in America. And when you can create allies, it makes your own cause stronger. Just one last thing. I see a lot of people often say, well, I don't see, this is the phrase I hear, I don't see Asian Americans fighting for us. I hear that phrase. And I tell people the operative kind of section of that phrase is you don't see. Now, you really only see who you follow.
Right.
And because I follow probably about 400 Asians and Asian Americans on Instagram. And many of them are deep personal friends. But because I follow them, I actually saw them at marches and protests and demonstrations for Ahmaud Arbery, for George Floyd, for Breonna Taylor. I saw them there.
Right.
Well, you only see what you follow. You only see the community that you build. And if you build an isolated, single race, single view community, well, that's what you'll see.
Right.
I'm not even saying that that's wrong. I have no judgment on it. But just know that if you follow everybody who looks like you and thinks like you, all you'll see is people who look like you and think like you. And I try not to do that. Like, I'm not a conservative, but I follow a lot of conservatives. Because I want to understand. I don't have the liberty of only working with people who see the world the way I do. And so I have to follow all types of people, but then I see all types of things. And so I would encourage you, try not to make your bubble so small that you only see what's in your bubble. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm okay. Sometimes you need a bubble. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, I have to unfollow some of these people because sometimes I'm not in a place to follow everybody,
Right.
but then I have to make my bubble bigger again, you know?
Absolutely. Transition just a little bit. Again, this is a Forward Towards Justice Summit that we're having this weekend. We've seen 2 years ago, Derek Chauvin was, convicted and charged and convicted of the killing of George Floyd. Yet we still continue to see instances of police brutality and injustice across the world. And so the particular question that I have for you is, why is it so hard to create change within the justice system?
That's a great question. I'm looking forward to that question because there's a few things that I don't mean to say confess, but there are a few new ideas that I'm wanting to flesh out. Like, how many of you love stand-up comedians? Like, before you watch a stand-up special on Netflix, those jokes they've told at small clubs and they've tested those jokes out. So I'm about to test out some new ideas, okay? I am disappointed with where we are right now as a country. I'm disappointed with where we are right now, even as a movement. I'm disappointed with the state of this modern civil rights movement that we're in, and I'm deeply disappointed with the Democratic Party. I'm like level 10 disappointed in Joe Biden and his administration. I'm disappointed with Congress and Democrats and Republicans. I'm disappointed with most governors, most mayors. There are very few people I'm not disappointed in right now. And I have started to wrestle. There is this phrase, I think one of the most important people I've ever met is Harry Belafonte. And had there been Instagram in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, he would have had 200 million followers. Like, he was the #1 music artist in the world for years and years. He's still alive. He was actually older than Martin Luther King, and they were close. To show you, like, Dr. King could still be alive had he not been murdered. Mm-hmm. Harry Belafonte says something to Dr. King that I could never shake, and I think it applies to us today. He said he told Dr. King, this was 10 years into the civil rights movement, they were talking about how they were wondering if it even worked, if the civil rights movement was working. And he said, Dr. King told him, I am afraid that I integrated my people into a burning house. Let me say that again. This was a year before Dr. King was killed. He was starting to look at the civil rights movement and starting to wonder if all the things they had done had just integrated black people into a house that really wanted to kill them. And he was questioning himself. And I find myself in a very similar place where I feel like we put in so much energy and effort over, let's just talk about the past 2 years. I don't feel like we've seen the output to the input we've put in. Does that make sense? And I'm starting to question two things. One, how do we actually measure our progress? And like, this is still part of this one, how do we measure our progress? Why are we so afraid to have metrics for what change looks like? Because I think what we should have done, if I could go back in time, I would say, listen, we need to set a goal of reducing the number of people killed by police by 50%. But instead, last year was the deadliest year of police brutality in the history of America. So had I set the goal, or had we as a people set the goal of reducing police brutality by 50%, last year would have been a complete failure.
Wow.
But I'm afraid that we're not even setting goals that we can measure. And what happens is, if you don't even have a measurable goal of let's reduce mass incarceration by, I'll give us a small number, 10%. If we don't have, let me even take it differently. Let's just think about gun violence. If we're saying, listen, we want to reduce the number of people shot and killed, I'm not talking about police. The number of people shot and killed in Dallas and Fort Worth, we want to cut that number in half. Well, 1 year in, 2 years in, 3 years in, you can look and say, are we succeeding or failing? But if we don't even set the number, if we don't even identify the goal, what happens is 10 years later, you don't even know if it's working. So I'm questioning our metrics. And the second thing that I'm questioning is whether or not we fully understand the size and scope of the problem. So I have 5 kids, And if I leave, how many parents in the room? Well, if I leave the house and I tell my kids, hey, I want the house clean before I'm gone. Well, I think if I told my kids that, they would do the dishes and take out the garbage. But if I actually meant, no, I also want you to sweep and vacuum and mop and do this, and like if I don't tell them exactly what to do, they're gonna do the least. Like, that's just the nature of kids. If I told my kids to clean the house and came home and saw them spraying the windows, I would freak out. Like, I would think, hold on, y'all clearly want something from me. Why are you doing? But if you don't spell out what it is you aim to do, I have said this now for years, some of why we don't really see the change with the justice system is the justice system itself is way more complex than we give it credit for. And what I've tried to teach people is that there's actually not one justice system. There are really about 20,000 microsystems. And I don't mean that with hyperbole. If you add up all the police departments, all the sheriff's offices, all the jails, all the prisons, it ends up being about 20,000 of them. They each have their own policies, their own laws, their own personnel. And so the truth is, if you march in Dallas, it hardly changes Dallas. Mm-hmm. When you march in Dallas, it definitely doesn't change Fort Worth. Mm-hmm. When you march in Fort Worth, it doesn't change Houston. When you rally in Houston, it doesn't change Austin. When you rally in Austin, it doesn't help San Antonio that much. Like, I think we lose sight. The United States is one of the biggest countries in the world, geographically and population-wise. It's an enormous, complex country, and the problems that we're trying to solve are often way bigger than we give credit for. Let me say one last thing. Before I wrote my book, Make Change, I met with civil rights leaders in over 40 states, and I asked them to tell me their solutions for the problems they were facing. And 99% of them, anytime I would ask them to share their solutions, they would immediately start describing the problem they were trying to solve. And I realized, and I'm talking about, they would describe the problem in academic detail, beautiful, meticulous, expert level detail, sometimes because they were impacted by it themselves. But what I realized is that we often confuse knowledge of the problem with a plan to solve the problem. Now, here's where I have to be generous. It's hard when you are impacted by oppression to simultaneously craft the plans to solve it. You're just trying to live.
Right.
You're trying to survive. You're trying to stay safe. You're trying to pay the bills. It's hard to be a strategic planner when you're also facing so much ugliness. But often, what broke my heart about these meetings was I would sometimes meet with the best of the best and say, with no judgment, break down for me the solutions you have. And they would immediately jump in to breaking down the problem. Now here's the good news. You can't solve the problem if you can't break it down like that. But knowing the problem isn't a plan to solve it. Those are two different things. And I think we are experts in most of our problems, but something much less than experts in the solutions on how to solve them. And so what happens is we march, we demonstrate, we tweet, we share, we post about the problem.
Yeah.
But that's not a plan to solve it. I think our plans are failing us right now.
Absolutely. On that concept and notion of solutions and strategies, You know, oftentimes in communities, we see protesting after there is injustice that takes place, and you just beautifully broke it down for us, is that protesting in Dallas doesn't affect change in Fort Worth.
Not
or vice versa,
necessarily, right.
or vice versa. So on that notion of solutions, talk about, you know, especially we have a lot of college students here tonight. What are some specific actions that can be taken locally and nationally to bring about justice?
Well, so his question is, what are some solutions and actions that we can take? The first thing you have to do is decide the problem that it is you want to confront. And I would encourage people to first try to confront a problem that's right in front of you. I would try to confront, how many students are in the room right now? Students, raise your hand. I would try to first confront a problem at this college. I don't say this as any judgment, okay? But the administration here, this is not a perfect college. Like, they know that. You know that. But while you are a student here, I would actually use almost as a test run for leadership, use this as an opportunity to actually try to solve something. I would first try in my department. Is there a policy that's lacking in your department? Is there a policy at the university that you think you could actually impact? The experience I got as a student at Morehouse doing this very thing shaped my whole life. So that when I was eventually able to impact other policies, I'd already been doing it on the college level. Often what we do is, I'm not saying don't dream. I'm not saying don't have a big vision, but it is important to show yourself that you can win, that you can fight for something and change it. I met the student government president who's here, and run for something on campus and win. Like, it could be small, it could be of a club or a department, and then actually be faithful over the responsibility that you have. I say that to say, if you first aim so big, like, I want to end world hunger. Listen, that's a great goal to have. But first, I mean this earnestly, can you try to make sure nobody hungry lives on your block? Let me be real, because I visit community colleges all over the country. There are probably hungry people I don't mean hungry ass people. Like, some people are always hungry. That's hungry ass. I mean, there are probably people in this room struggling with hunger. You probably go to class with people who are food insecure.
Right.
I say that to say, if your goal is to end world hunger, but you don't even care about it in your class, I struggle to take that seriously. So if you want to change policing, work with these campus police officers. I will say, I met several good campus police officers today. Campus police officers are probably the best police in America. And most of them, now listen, say, doesn't mean you can't have critiques of them. That's not where I'm going. I'm saying in the scheme of police, when someone chooses to be a campus police officer, it's often because they chose to opt out of the other system. Like, learn from the police here. See if you can impact policies here. For instance, I've worked with students on 10 campuses. Campus police will probably hate this, but who found ways to make all their campus police officers on their campus unarmed. They wanted to have unarmed campus police, where their police would have guns in a safe in a room somewhere that they could access, which, by the way, is how it happens for most of the world. Most of the world's police don't carry guns. They have access to guns in case of an emergency. Well, they did it. And their police work with them to say, very uncomfortably, say, we'll consider this. We'll do a pilot of this. And so I'm just saying, like, work with what's in front of you so that you don't work on something so big and fail that it discourages you so much that you never do the work again. And so I like to win. Like, I like to actually change stuff. And so I want to do it as best I can. And the way you change things the most is impacting what's right in front of you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. All the students in the room, y'all should be clapping up. He gave you some practical steps to make change right here on your college campus. I want to shift the conversation just a little for the remaining minutes that we have here and try to get maybe a couple more questions in really quick. But I want to ask this question here. You for certainly are often critiqued and you're often criticized in media because of the positions that you take. You gave us the example earlier about not being on that task force. Some people love you, some people hate you. And so you have been accused many times of raising funds for people of injustice, whether it was Tamir Rice and so many others. And they've said you've raised these funds, these millions of dollars or thousands of dollars, and you've actually not given them to the families that you were raising the money for. And so you talk about oftentimes how a lie will go around quicker than the truth. And so talk to us about I want to actually say this here because this is important. I want to make sure I read this. You posted that GoFundMe actually went back 10 plus years to do history, to search, to look at your records. And the legal and safety team at GoFundMe found that you've never even started a GoFundMe for anyone. You've never been the beneficiary of a GoFundMe, and you've never withdrawn funds from GoFundMe. But talk about how the media or whoever it may be, the left or the right, purports these lies about you that you're actually stealing money from the causes that you're raising for. Talk about that.
So when GoFundMe, the corporation, it is bad for their business for people to be saying that I'm stealing from fundraisers. So they did their own independent investigation and released a public statement saying, no, that's never happened. And he's never even had access. He's never started a GoFundMe. And when that happened, I thought to myself, so ignorantly, that's it. Nobody's going to spread this lie again. When I shared that, people then started saying, I bet that's not even from GoFundMe. No, real people started saying, I bet he just, do you know, like, it would be fraud for me to post a public statement from GoFundMe that they didn't actually make. It did it. I literally thought this is going to shut it all down because this is it. It didn't even change it. I've tried to tell people it is a federal and state crime to raise money for a family or a charity or a cause and 100% of that not go to that family, charity, or cause. I have never done that a single day in my life. I never did it and had to come back and fix it. I never did it a little bit. It's never happened, ever. And if I did do it once, I would be the first person that 100 different people would love to prosecute for this. And there are people right now in jail for fraud on GoFundMe, fraud in charitable fundraisings. Here's what's wild. Our organizations have to submit quarterly public reports to the FEC. every single quarter. And they are listed on the FEC website. We've submitted nearly 40 of them from 2 organizations. It has every dollar we've raised, every dollar we spent. Nobody goes to it. Even when I share it, when I post it, nobody cares. The lie that I'm stealing from people is so juicy, and the truth is so boring that the lie just won't go away. I said something to you that, and it stung me, because for years I started thinking, I'm going to do such good work that eventually people will stop saying this lie. I'm going to help so many people that eventually the lie will stop. It never stopped. No matter what I did, no matter what I said, no matter if GoFundMe said it, it didn't matter. And so it's unfortunate, but I think first and foremost, some of the people who started telling that lie hoped that I would stop raising money for families, and I won't. So I'm still raising money for families who need help. And then let me tell you the ugly truth. My best friend is Lee Merritt, a civil rights attorney here in Texas. And Lee and I did an experiment, this was before the pandemic, where there were several families that we didn't raise money for. Nobody else showed up to do it. There are times where if I don't do it, nobody else shows up. So I've made up my mind, I'm just going to show up. Even if people are spreading the lie, saying the lie, I'm more committed to the work than I am even my own reputation. So if people expect me to like curl up in a ball and not do this work anymore, it's just not in me. And so it's unfortunate. Like I hired a team of accountants and others. I gave them access, and this is public record. I gave them access to every credit card, every checking account for 10 years. And they all said, no, he has never done anything like this. It still didn't shut it down. People then said, well, he knows those accountants. He knows those attorneys. It's like, what can you do? And so it's why, I'll close with this, it's why fake news is dangerous. It's like 4 days ago, everybody said A$AP Rocky cheated on Rihanna. And it's like, I kept digging and digging. I said, who is even saying this? I couldn't even find us. It turns out it was just a random tweet. Like, somebody just made that up. But for days and days, people were like, man, I can't believe this. I mean, it was the #1 trending topic in the world. And it was just a lie. And then now there are memes saying Drake made it up. you know, it's like, you have to laugh to keep from crying, but like fake news is dangerous. And let me show the other side of it. That's why we also can't even spread fake news on our enemies. Like I don't say fake news about Donald Trump, because it's that whole thing of injustice anywhere. Listen, if you're telling lies on Trump, then when they tell lies on you, it's gonna fly just as much. And so that's a slippery slope. Like fake news is dangerous.
Absolutely. We're going to leave our audience with this last and final question here. We've explored a number of different topics tonight and concepts and ideas. Hopefully everybody comes back tomorrow. Sean King will be with us tomorrow. And so if you enjoy this conversation, you'll again be able to hear him give a formal address about activating justice in our community. But I want to leave the audience with this. You know, you talked about how you're kind of disappointed in a lot of people right now, from both sides, right? Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had a I Have a Dream speech. You do this work all day, every day, and I know that it costs, and there's a sacrifice to be made. If you will, leave our audience perhaps with some hope. I don't know. But
I'm hopeful.
Leave our audiences with these final words of, what is your Sean King? What is your vision or dream for the future And the second part is, are you hopeful, and tell us why?
So tomorrow, for those of you who can come, there's an exercise that I'm going to do with us to show us like the potential change. Like if, say there are 100 of us in the room right now, just 100 of us decided to fully commit ourselves to an idea or a goal, how much we could actually accomplish. And tomorrow, I'm going to have us do that. I'm going to workshop that idea and have us see how much just we in real life could accomplish together. I am to the point where I realize when we put too much of our future in other people's hands, we put ourselves in a really dangerous spot. And so if we push the gas and put all of our energy into electing somebody who may or may not even care about us, that's a dangerous proposition. Because you might have then spent all your energy, time, effort, all of that, and it might not even pay off. I am hopeful that we are just scratching the surface of what we can actually do and fight for ourselves, and what we can build ourselves. I think we are underdeveloping our own institutions, our own school. Like, when Dr. King said, "I'm afraid that we have integrated our people into a burning house," let me tell you what some of that means. Like, I love Jackie Robinson, and 3 weeks ago, it was the 75th anniversary of Jackie Robinson integrating Major League Baseball. And if you've ever studied Jackie Robinson, he was like a real-life superhero. But let me tell you, when they integrated Major League Baseball, it killed the Negro Leagues. Like, the cost was Jackie Robinson gets to play for the Brooklyn Dodgers, but what it also, that's the benefit, but the cost is every black-owned team got shut down. So when all of a sudden the Dallas Morning News starts hiring in the late 70s and early 80s 1 and 2 black people to write for the paper, guess what happened? All the black papers started shutting down. There is a cost to integrating completely into someone else's vision. Whereas now, there's not a single black owner in the NFL, in Major League Baseball. There's only one black owner in sports, and it's Michael Jordan. Like, it's like, damn, you have to be Michael Jordan? Like, no, real talk. It's like, you have to be basically one of the most elite human beings on the history of the planet to be black and on a sports team. Well, we integrated ourselves into somebody else's America. And we have to say, what can we do in our community? How can we change our schools? How can we police ourselves? What does that look like? What does it look like for us to say, listen, I want this block to be safe. Well, now I want this whole community to be safe. What's that mean? What does it mean for us to say, listen, I want to go a week in Fort Worth with there being no shootings? Well, how do we do that? How do we say, well, here in my community, when a family has a dispute, we've taught the community to do A, B, or C instead of calling 911? Or if you saw the video of this 8-year-old boy who was brutalized by the Syracuse police, the question is, what is my dream? Well, what if we went to every store in our neighborhood, in this neighborhood, and said, listen, if a kid steals from the store, we've established a fund for $20,000. If you show that to us, we'll compensate you for the theft, but please don't call the police on these kids. I'm just thinking out loud. I mean, say we spent 2 days and actually detailed that out and said, if any kids under 12 get caught stealing in here, call us, we'll pay for it, and call us and we might come over and speak to them ourselves and say, hey, young blood, listen, what you don't know is I just had to pay for that. And all of a sudden, the kid realizes like, oh, what? Yeah, young man, I just had to pay for that Arizona iced tea. I just want you to know, young man, that I asked them not to call the police on you, but I also had to pay for it on your behalf. That might actually stop some things. You see, I'm just thinking in real time. I have hope because I don't think we've actually pushed our most creative solutions onto some of the problems that we have. I think we're barely scratching the surface. I think we've tried really, really hard at some things that were probably doomed to fail. And that breaks my heart. What's encouraging about it is it wasn't that we were wrong. We did what we thought was right. Our energy was right. Our effort was right. We were just 45 degrees off. Let's figure out what does it mean to recalibrate, recalculate, and figure this out in other creative ways. I just know that what we've gotten from the output, something's off. It's not making sense to me. And instead of us continuing to try the same equation that keeps disappointing us, I think we really have to change the equation. And the beauty is we get to decide what that equation is. And so I can't quit thinking about that 8-year-old boy who police were hurting him over a stolen bag. I don't even know that that boy actually stole that bag of chips, first off. But had he stolen it, I'm not comfortable with that. And I've just been turning over in my mind, listen, I even thought, what should we have done if we saw the police doing that? And then I took it a step further and I said, oh, how could we prevent it from happening in the first place? And instead of saying, well, I don't know, let's just keep living the way we live, I want us to look at the problems and try to flip them on their head and just say, let's throw 20 ideas at a problem that are fresh and new and see if any of those work. Because a lot of the stuff we keep throwing at our problems, including police brutality, it's not working. And so, you know, that whole definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. It's like, yeah, we need to do something different. So the sky's the limit with that. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, you've heard Sean King share some of his thoughts, his ideas, some of his strategies, some potential solutions, contemplating things right here in the moment with us. Again, he will be back here tomorrow. He will be delivering the closing keynote address, and so you don't want to miss it. We hope that you will return tomorrow. Tell somebody who was not here tonight about tonight's conversation and that they should join us tomorrow. If you will, once again, just put your hands together and give Sean King a round of applause. Thank you, everybody.
All right, all right. Thank you all so much. Before I give some final remarks, I do want to acknowledge one of our board members, Dr. Morrison. Thank you for joining us tonight. If you can, please, before you all leave, there's a survey of evaluations that you can scan on your table and give us some remarks. We look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be awesome, and you all drive safely home, and hopefully we'll see you all tomorrow.